Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the Washington Capitals and some of the trades they have made. Goodness, this has been a crazy day of trades. I think they pushed up the trade deadline because everybody's making all their moves a couple of days ahead of time, and geez, they made some interesting moves. And considering what we've talked about with the Capitals on my recent live streams, make sure to check those out, guys, because some of them are really good, and especially with the Capitals recently, we've been talking about, their priority list. It's been pretty clear. You can tell, okay, Milano and Strome, they had a heavy priority on getting those guys re-signed. They did that very early, right? And they were criticized for that. That was at the top of the priority list. Who's next? Oh, Dmitry Orlov. All right. Not getting anywhere with a contract extension. You're going to get traded. Goodbye. There goes Dmitry Orlov and Hathaway. Who's next? Erik Gustafsson. Erik Gustafsson doesn't want to sign an extension. All right. We're sending you off. And that's the next trade we're going to look at. The Washington Capitals acquire Rasmus Sandin from the Maple Leafs in exchange. Erik Gustafsson and a 2023 first-round pick go to the Boston Bruins. Kind of seems like a weird trade in the sense that the Capitals have been quote-unquote selling at this deadline with some of their recent acquisitions and trades. But this is a move that makes sense for the Capitals. I've been talking about this for a while, how the Capitals, watch the Capitals, if they are to add anybody, look for a defenseman with term. And that's exactly what they got from Rasmus Sandin. Rasmus Sandin has been playing with the Leafs. He's taken a lot of heat from his season with the Leafs. They've obviously not been where they would like to be with Sandin. His development has definitely been stunted. But nonetheless, he's still a plus 10 this season. 20 points in 52 games. That's not bad for a defenseman. He's played in over 140 games in the National Hockey League, and he's still fairly young. He's 22 years old, left-shot defenseman. What more could you ask for if you're the Capitals? And now you're starting to rebuild your blue line here because, like I said, you lost Orlov. You're losing Erik Gustafsson. Depending on what happens with Trevor Van Riemsdyk here over the next couple of days, he might be out. The Capitals need to fix their defense, right? The big storyline for the last couple of months has been the Capitals don't have any defensemen with term other than John Carlson in their top six. Well, that is no longer true because Rasmus Sandin is also a contract that ends in 2024. So he'll be an RFA with arbitration rights next summer. So the Capitals, depending on what happens next year, they have some. It's not like he's a UFA and can walk next year. They can still keep him. They have some stability under him. This is a great pickup. And I don't think for a second that the Capitals are done. They're just continuing down the list. So now they brought in Sandin. They've got John Carlson. And now they're going to start to look at who's next, right? Nick Jensen. What's his value on the market? Trevor Van Riemsdyk, what can they get for him in a deal? You start looking at those guys. Matt Irwin, probably not going to get traded, but that's kind of what you're looking at. Nicholas Aube-Kubel, Lars Eller, Craig Smith, Connor Sheary, all those guys are going to get prioritized in some kind of order here over the next couple of days. I don't think the Capitals are done making moves. This is the first of a couple of moves we've seen here from Brian McClellan, but this is a really good start for the Capitals going into next year. Give them some kind of hope for next year. And picking up a young 22-year-old left-shot defenseman Swede is a great way to do that. Now, the other trade that they made, I think this is a fan favorite, and they're probably not happy that Marcus Johansson is no longer a member of the Capitals. Marcus Johansson traded to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for a 2024 third-round pick. Overall, honestly, again, I know Capitals fans aren't going to like this, but the return is actually pretty good. They're able to get a third-round pick for a guy that, honestly, has had mitigating success, right? He's had some good moments in Washington. He's had some bad moments. And I think what's frustrating is they just brought him back, right? The big deal last year at the deadline was they reacquired him at the deadline from the Seattle Kraken. It was a heartwarming story. Marcus Johansson returns to D.C., and just a year later, he's back on the road heading to St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, what does this mean for, shout out to Urban, big Minnesota Wild fan, and the rest of the Wild fans? Good pickup for the Wild. This is a guy that fits what they're trying to do there. And Dean Evason is trying to change the culture of this team. Marcus Johansson fits that style. And I think this is a guy that can give this team a boost. And if they're trying to win some tough games down the stretch in the Western Conference, honestly, games they've been losing recently, Marcus Johansson can come in there and help them. Now, this makes sense for Billy G, Bill Guerin, because, listen, it costed them a third-round pick, not super expensive, but again, they're adding a guy that can jump into the top six, preferably middle six. He can play center. He's a penalty killer. The Minnesota Wild are starting to show that they are looking to be buyers at the deadline. And I love this move here by Bill Guerin. He sends a good message to his team. Listen, I'm going to help you guys out. You guys got to give me something. They gave him a little bit, and now Marcus Johansson goes to Minnesota, a veteran that is a great fit there. And like I said, under Dean Evason, I think he's going to become a fan favorite in Minnesota very, very quickly. He's a hardworking guy. Like I said, tough to play against. That's exactly what the Minnesota Wild needed. Now, to follow that up with the Minnesota Wild before we end the video, Gustav Nyquist also acquired by the Minnesota Wild for a 5th-round selection. 50% of Nyquist's remaining salary will be retained by the Columbus Blue Jackets. Not bad for the Blue Jackets. They're able to get something for a guy that really hasn't been healthy this year, really hasn't been super productive. So in that sense, I'm happy Nyquist was able to get out of Columbus, maybe one more shot at a playoff run. Now, the funny thing is, he's back in the Midwest. As you know, yes, he was in Columbus, but he also played for the Detroit Red Wings. So even though he's in Minnesota, he's still in the Midwest, so it's not a bad thing for him. He doesn't have to travel all that far. With that said, though, the Wild picking up a couple of guys, a 3rd and a 5th-round pick for Johansson and Nyquist. Not too bad for the Minnesota Wild, considering they don't want to give up some of those prized 1st, 2nd-round picks and some of their other players available. But keep an eye out now for the Minnesota Wild, because the fact they made these trades leaves me wondering what else Bill Guerin might have up his sleeve. So that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think of these trades? Who won them? Who lost them? What do you guys just think overall? Vent in the comment section down below. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.